Did you know that the cute and fluffy cat on your lap is actually a descendant of a wild desert hunter? Or that your loyal dog comes from a long line of fierce and howling wolves? Yes, it's true, the animals that we call our best friends today were not always so cuddly. They were wild, untamed, and definitely not interested in becoming our best buddies. So then the big question is, how on earth did we go from running away from them to allowing them to share our homes and our hearts? Well, in today's video, we're going to find out. Alright, let's rewind the clock to thousands of years ago, back to a time when humans were still figuring things out, like how to make fire, where to find food, how to survive without becoming lunch for a wildcat, and more. In those early days, humans were not exactly at the top of the food chain, but somewhere along the line, something incredible happened. We formed a bond with another species, and no, it wasn't with our next-door neighbors, it was with animals. Now, let's be clear. Early humans didn't just wake up one day and decide, hey, let's start a pet adoption agency. Oh no, it was way more complex than that. The first interactions between humans and animals were likely out of necessity. Humans were hunters and gatherers, always on the move, always looking for their next meal. And the animals? Well, they were both potential food and potential threats. But wait, what exactly is the difference between taming and domestication? Well, taming is like training an individual wild animal to tolerate humans. However, domestication is on a whole different level. It involves selectively breeding animals over generations to emphasize traits like friendliness, docility, and even loyalty. In other words, it's not just a one-time deal. It's a long and slow transformation. So, why does that matter? As the Ice Age came to an end, the climate changed, and so did the availability of resources. Humans needed more sustainable food sources, reliable tools, and ways to make their lives easier, and so began one of the most significant experiments in human history: taming the wild and building a brand new world together with animals. So then, who were the first lucky animals to get a one-way ticket from the wild and into our homes and hearts? Well, you guessed it right, that would be the wolf. Yes, our fluffy, tail-wagging dogs were once wild, untamed wolves. It all begins when some wolves figured out that hanging around human campsites wasn't such a bad idea. It's like they saw humans as walking food trucks, and over time, those wolves that were more tolerant and less aggressive began to get closer and closer, and they realized, hey, these humans aren't so bad after all. And the humans? Well, they began to see these early dogs as allies in hunting, like an early warning system, and even a bit of warmth on a cold night. Slowly but surely, through selective breeding for gentler and friendlier traits, we got what we now know as the domesticated dog, man's first and arguably best friend. Other animals like sheep, goats, and cattle, they all began to follow suit. Now, undoubtedly, these animals were not exactly in it for the belly rubs. Oh no, they had a whole different kind of value. As humans transitioned from hunting and gathering to settling down in one place, they needed a steady food supply. And what's better than having fresh milk, meat, and even wool on tap? Sheep and goats were amongst the first animals that humans decided to keep around for these very reasons. They were relatively easy to manage, they bred quickly, and they provided more than just food. Cattle soon followed after, offering not only milk and meat, but also muscle power for plowing the fields. It wasn't just about taming these animals, it was about building an entire lifestyle around them. This shift would mark the beginning of pastoralism, which is basically humans herding animals and relying on them for survival. Cats also soon came into the picture. For these ones, they never truly wanted to be domesticated. Unlike dogs who became eager companions, cats were more like, fine, I'll stay, but only because you have mice. Cats first started hanging around human settlements in the Fertile Crescent, attracted by the easy prey of rodents who were feasting on stored grain. The humans were happy to have some pest control, and the cats, well, they decided that we as humans weren't so bad after all. As long as we kept up our end of the deal, that is. Unlike dogs who were actively bred for specific traits, cats pretty much domesticated themselves by deciding that hanging around humans was more convenient than roughing it in the wild. And so, overall, we can safely say that humans started domesticating animals for survival, companionship, emotional bonds, cultural and spiritual significance, and somehow, social status. But away from all of that, let's focus on the how. How in the world did humans manage to turn wild and unpredictable animals into reliable and friendly companions and valuable resources? Well, let's start with selective breeding. Now, you've probably heard of it, but what does it actually mean? Imagine you're an early human with a bunch of wolves hanging around your campsite. Some of these wolves are a little less bitey and a bit more curious. However, over time, the less aggressive wolves breed with each other. And slowly but surely, generation after generation, you end up with dogs. Not in one lifetime, of course, but over hundreds and thousands of years. This process of choosing animals with desirable traits like friendliness, tameness, or even fluffiness and breeding them is what we call selective breeding. And this is where the magic of domestication really begins. But it wasn't just about picking the most calm or cute animals. There were genetic changes taking place under the surface as well. Scientists have found that domesticated animals often share some common traits that are rare in the wild, like floppy ears, curly tails, and different coat colors. This phenomenon is known as domestication syndrome. It turns out that when you select for tameness, other seemingly unrelated traits surface as well, thanks to genetics. But now let's look at how these genetic changes affect not only the animals, but also us humans. Humans had to adapt and learn and innovate to better care for and utilize these animals. We developed brand new tools, built enclosures, and even came up with different kinds of diets, both for the animals and ourselves. This coevolution between humans and domesticated animals meant that we weren't only shaping their future, they were shaping ours as well. So, in a nutshell, the process of domestication was a slow and careful blending of observation, patience, and ancient science. It was humans learning to work with nature, tweaking it here and there, to create a world where wolves could turn into woofers and wild cattle into gentle milking machines. And all of this just so that we could have some companionship, food security, and maybe a little bit of prestige on the side. But now here's the kicker. This ancient partnership came with a few surprising twists and turns, some of which we're still discovering today. One of them is the unexpected health risks, like zoonotic diseases. And when we started living closely with domesticated animals, we also started sharing more than just our space. We began sharing germs. Diseases like the flu and measles and even smallpox have origins that can be traced back to animals. So, while taming and domesticating animals brought us a lot of benefits, it also introduced a few microscopic enemies into the mix. And then there's the concept of over-domestication. Some animals became so tame they actually lost their ability to survive in the wild. Take sheep, for example. We bred them to produce lots of wool, but now they're so dependent on us that they need regular shearing. Otherwise, they'd be buried under their own fleece. Or think about certain dog breeds that have been bred for such specific traits, like extremely short snouts or long bodies, that they've ended up with health problems. It's like we created our own animal kingdom of pampered pets and farm animals that are totally out of touch with their wild roots. Oh, and one more twist for you. Domestication didn't only affect our four-legged friends, it might have even influenced our own genes. There's evidence that suggests that living alongside animals could have shaped certain human traits, like our immune systems adapting to handle new pathogens that jump from animals to humans. You do get that, right? And that's it on how we humans began taming and domesticating animals. But before we go, let's hear from you. What do you think? Are we still in the process of taming and domesticating new species, or have we reached the end of the line? And what could the future of our relationship with animals really look like? Let us know in the comments below. And while you're at it, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you're always the first one to know when a new video comes out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.